Hello and welcome to today's LinkedIn Live with Lynnaire. I'm your host, Lynnaire Johnston. I'm a New Zealand-based LinkedIn lover. I love absolutely everything about LinkedIn, and I spend my days learning about it and helping businesses and individuals to get the most out of the LinkedIn platform. Each week, I hold a live event here on LinkedIn. Each fortnight, it's a LinkedIn Live, and on the alternate fortnights, it's a LinkedIn audio room. And today's LinkedIn Live is one with a guest, and it is a very special guest. I'm talking about my good friend Jaqui Lane. Now, Jaqui and I have known each other for some time. We've worked together for several years now. We came together through LinkedIn, and we have had many interactions, and a lot of them have been about LinkedIn. Jaqui has a really interesting story that she's going to share with us in just a moment. But she is a member of the Forbes Business Council, and that's one of the reasons why I've invited her to have a chat with us today, because I wanted to talk to her about setting up a business on LinkedIn. Now, of course, not necessarily just LinkedIn, but I know that Jaqqui's business has a big LinkedIn component. So let me tell you briefly about Jaqui, and then we can hear her story and how she uses LinkedIn in her business. So Jaqui is a renowned corporate storyteller. She's a business historian, biographer, and business book coach, and she's wonderful at that. She's written 29 business histories for ASX listed companies, private and family businesses, and interviewed more than 1,000 business and government leaders from around the world. We're not researching and writing business histories. Jaqqui's one of Australia's leading business book coaches. She works with entrepreneurs, business owners, consultants, and company directors, and people like me through the whole process of writing, self-publishing, and marketing their business book. Now, when not researching, writing, coaching, or reading books, she's an avid reader. Jaqui is a keen scuba diver, and she is a hiker and a traveler across the Middle East. She's got many stories to tell about her time in the Middle East. So a very warm welcome from a very warm Sydney, Jaqui. Hello, and thanks for joining us.
Oh, Lynnaire, thank you very much for the introduction. And it's a very hot autumn day here for some weird reason, and my bulbs are sprouting, so I'm not very happy.
I assure you you're not. Well, here in Dunedin, New Zealand, it is somewhat less warm, let me assure you, but still a lovely sunny day. So I want to start by asking you about the GFC. You had a thriving business for several decades. You started out as a New Zealander. You're a kind of a quasi-Aussie these days, being based in Sydney. But the GFC brought everything to a rapid halt, I understand.
Yeah, it's interesting. It seems such a long time ago now, and it was 2008. So I had a business book publishing company that I'd founded in 1989. So I'd been running for about 23 years. And so you can feel pretty safe, I guess, in that environment. And the GFC really came along and pretty much wiped it out within about 6 months. And interestingly, book publishing was just about to turn at that point. So kind of a weird confluence of events, really. Anyway, that happened, and I had to sit there and think about what I was going to do next. And I love books and everything to do with that. So I decided to set up another business, as you do. And so I set up Book Advisor. Yeah, exactly. Sucker for punishment. So I set up the Book Advisor as a specialist business book coaching, self-publishing and coaching business. And I set it up to be virtual and international from day one.
And I understand from many discussions with you about this that LinkedIn has been a very important part of that. So I understand that LinkedIn can't be the only marketing strategy that you use when you are running a business, or even setting up a business for that matter. So where did LinkedIn come into the picture for you?
Okay, so really great question, Lynnaire. For me, I was very much, and, I come from, jokingly calling myself Luddite Lane. Engaging with tech has never been a strong point for me, although it is now.
I hear you.
So a big thing for me was that I was not naturally an online person in any way, shape, or form. And crazily, I decided to start this business as a virtual business online. Wow, really sensible. But what I recognised was that that I wanted to reach out to a potential target audience. And for me, doing some work around my business and marketing was understanding who my target audience was. So I created some avatars. And then when I went kind of looking around the place to see where my avatars were, really pretty quickly found that LinkedIn was the place where my potential clients were. Not the only place, but it was a pretty significant one. And given that was 9 years ago, Lynnaire, you'd know this better than me, LinkedIn was really pretty under the radar 9 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was. It's celebrating its 20th birthday next month. Isn't that interesting? I only found that out yesterday, with nearly 1 billion members now. And there's no question in my mind that LinkedIn has morphed from what was originally a job seekers and recruitment platform into one that people like you and I, independent business owners, can use to help our businesses grow in the wider business community, because it confers authority, because everybody checks you out on LinkedIn before they see you anywhere else. That's a really good way to build your credibility. And also because it gives you visibility with your posts or any kind of interaction engagement that you do on LinkedIn, then that raises your visibility. And not just in Australia for you and New Zealand for me. One of the things I found really quickly once I got head into LinkedIn was that it was, gee whiz, worldwide. And now both you and I have our tentacles placed in all kinds of countries, the US, the UK, Europe, and other Asian areas as well, no doubt. And so that's one of the things that I think that I really love about LinkedIn. But one of the most important things to me has been the ability to network and meet people on LinkedIn, people who've been able to teach me things, from whom I've learned, people who've been able to help me in my business, like my fabulous book advisor, Jaqui Lane, who was super instrumental in me producing this, just let me add quietly, and also to be able to share ideas and collaborate. So that side of LinkedIn, I think, is often forgotten. And of course, when you and I first started out on it, it would have had probably 500, 600 million members, and it wasn't really well known in our part of the world. Now that's changed. And I would like to hear from you what kind of relationships that you've built with people on LinkedIn, or not as, yes, on LinkedIn and as a result of being on LinkedIn. Because as I say, I think that's a really critical area of LinkedIn that's often not looked at very much at all, overlooked.
Yeah, look, I think, great question again. And there I said, so I've got, I guess, different responses to that. So I very much use LinkedIn as a business development tool. So there is something in LinkedIn called Sales Navigator, which is basically how I explain it to my clients who've never heard of it. It's basically LinkedIn's database. And it's an extraordinarily powerful database that you can use to search potential, people that you want to connect with by category, country, business size, you name it. It's very powerful. So I have been running I guess what you'd call a business development funnel through Sales Navigator for 5 or 6 years now. So approximately half of my clients come through referral, and then half of them come through that LinkedIn really planned business development program. So that's really was a fascinating thing for me, because when I first started getting into LinkedIn, I had no idea whether that was going to work or not, because I had just never had any experience with that kind of thing at all. So I wasn't skeptical. I just was very open-minded about whether it would work or not, and it works. So in terms of a business growth point of view, been absolutely mission critical to my business. As I've mentioned before, it's not the only thing I do, because I don't think you should ever have all your eggs on one platform, but it's a very important part of that. On the other side, and given that I'm a writer, it's a great platform for me. I write a lot, and it gives me a place to write and share my thoughts. And And interestingly, in writing posts and more importantly articles, so I think I write one article a month. So I've now written over 190 articles over 4 or 5 years. And the number of people that read those articles and then reach out to me, asking me a question or engaging the article or a post, that in some cases I never would have been brave enough in a month of Sundays to actually reach out to them. So whilst I might seem super confident, and I am, there are some people on LinkedIn or in life that you think, oh, I'm not brave enough to actually send a connection request to them or message them. But a lot of that content stuff drives people actually reaching out to you. So I've found LinkedIn fascinating and really interesting about creating the opportunity for new connections. And that's not so much even about getting new business. It's about really having an international network of people who really keep, I'm curious, who keep you on the ball and understanding what's going on in the world.
Yes, and in your own industry as well. For me, that's critical to have a good network of people that I can reach out to when I've got a question to ask, where I'm not sure about something, I want to refer somebody on. You have all kinds of reasons for wanting to have a large network. And I think that it's really important to reach out and connect to new people on a regular basis. And I am forever suggesting to people that when they do that, they need to write a personalized invite message, because people don't know you, they don't know what you are or what you do, and that invite just drops into their folder, and they just go, well, who on earth is this person? And they might either say yes based on what you look like, they might say yes, or they might go, I better have a look at this person, which then takes me back to your profile. How important do you think it is to have a really strong LinkedIn profile that showcases your skills and your expertise, your experience, and your knowledge?
It's mission critical. And interestingly, I work with a lot of my clients. One of the first things I do with them is look at their LinkedIn profile and typically say, right, we have to redo this. Because again, if you haven't been on the platform and you don't understand the dynamics of it, most people would look at their LinkedIn profile still as a glorified CV. So weirdly, they talk all about themselves as opposed to what their expertise is and how they can help people. And it sounds counterintuitive in a way, but if someone goes onto your profile and they don't scroll down, they are going to make a judgment about who you are and how you can help them based on pretty much your photo, your banner, the description of who you are, and maybe the top line about you. So if that's not right, you can probably kiss the rest of it goodbye, although the rest of it's really important, and it really shouldn't be about you.
No, and I think that that's something that people forget a lot in writing. I come from a journalism and copywriting background, and one of the things that always bugged me, particularly with copywriting, is that people wanted to talk about themselves and not what their audience, their company, their buyers, their customers wanted. And so the same applies on LinkedIn. You need to write about what it is that people want to know about. If you can solve a problem for them, then you need to tell them about that. If they've got an itch, you want to be the person that they invite to scratch it, right? And it's all about being in the right place at the right time and being top of mind. Now, you've mentioned writing, and as a writer, I too have really enjoyed the publishing side of LinkedIn. And in fact, that's when I started to take LinkedIn seriously, was when I realized that you could write content that people might or might not read, but that was the way to amplify your voice. And I've not looked back, because I've been there, I fell in love with it. And we started out with articles, but then of course we were able to do posts, and now we can do ridiculously different numbers of posts and documents and polls and videos and you name it. So of the different formats that are available, which are the ones that are currently working best for you, Jaqui?
Oh, good question, because as you well know, it kind of changes over time. So I guess I maybe approach it slightly differently. So, I'm really good at executing things. So I've been writing an article every month for 5 years. And that's an important part for me of sharing knowledge, because that's a very big part of what I do, that if someone wants to go and learn about how to self-publish a book, they could go through and find pretty much a lot of stuff they need through my article. So I want to share that information. I do videos. I never started out doing videos. I didn't know how to do them. I was scared of doing them. It took me a long while to be comfortable to do them, and I started off getting a whole production team, and then now I just hold my phone up, and I sat in the garden yesterday and kind of did 6 videos. So videos are great. So I do like videos because, again, with LinkedIn, if someone's going to connect with you or follow you up for whatever reason, if they've read something that you've written, they've seen some of your videos, they will have formed an opinion of who you are before they even reach out to you. So, and that's a good thing, given that I've got a virtual business, someone will have worked out, do I know what I'm doing and saying, what's my personality like? Am I reputable and trustworthy? They make all of those kinds of decisions by what I've written, by my videos, by some of my comments. So that's that whole buy cycle, I guess, before they've even contacted you. So video, articles, and posts. And my biggest challenge with posts that I could spend all day on LinkedIn posting posts and commenting on other people's posts, and that's I guess another really important thing. I spend a certain amount each day engaging other people's posts and articles because it's not all about me.
No, and you raise a very good point, because the best way to get more engagement on your own posts is you wait for it, comment on other people's. And so it's a good idea to have probably at least as 5, I've seen as some people say 10 times as many comments that you write on other people's posts as you post yourself. It will increase your visibility tremendously, and it's something that I think that most people forget. And also, Jaqui, there are a few people out there who are not great writers and who don't really want to be posting content themselves, and so that's a really good strategy for them, because they can then just write comments that are helpful on other people's posts and then showcase their knowledge and their expertise that way. Now, an interesting development that LinkedIn is currently rolling out, you've already got this, it's still coming to me, is a new layout for the activity section. So this means that anybody can go now, when they have this new layout, to your activity page, and they'll be able to see your comments in a list. So you don't want to be writing comments that say, great post, really like this, well done, thanks for sharing, any of that nonsense, because it simply is just going to look terrible when people go to your comments. Now, this is so new that I don't know yet how people are going to look at it, but whether they're going to look at it. But given that people like to do business with people and they like to know about people, and we're inherently nosy, Jaqui, I'm guessing that that is going to be one of the most popular sections or tabs in this new activity page. So you want to make that look really good, in my view, by writing really informed comments, and you're very good at that. If anybody's looking for a great example on how to write really sensible comments, then that is it. And one of the things I like about comments is that I don't have to write about things I know about. I often do, but not always. You're responding to somebody else's post about a different topic entirely, so people see different aspects of you, which is another reason why I think that those comments are going to be super important. Now, I want to, before I ask my next question, say to those of you who are on the live call today that Jaqui will be taking questions at the end of our discussion. Who knows when that will be? Jaqui and I know each other quite well. We could be here all afternoon. So please do pop your questions into the comments, and when we've wrapped up, Jaqui will give you some answers to those. Now, my next question has to do with moving people, and you talked about your sales funnel. So I want to know how you move people along the sales process. They come to you via LinkedIn, generally fairly warm, because as you said, they already know a bit about you. They know that you're trustworthy, you're approachable, that you're a great person, people have said good things about you. So how do you get them from that initial interaction? Hi, Jaqui, I'm interested in your services. How do you move them forward from there? Do you stay interacting with them on LinkedIn, or do you do something else that's slightly different?
Yeah, another great question. So depending on how they've come in, how they've connected with me, because sometimes I'm going out and sending connection requests to people I don't know, or someone messages me. So within the messaging, I guess, ecosystem of LinkedIn has a messaging area. Our very clear purpose around that is to get them off LinkedIn as soon as possible. So having a conversation with someone on a message, I would typically be saying, if you popped into my message, say, oh, great, Lynnaire, hi, you're interested in doing a book, more than happy to have a chat with you. How would you like to do that? Phone, Zoom, or email. Here's my phone number, here's my email, and here's a link to my calendar. By all means, connect with me via any of those, and, happy to have a chat with you. So I want to get them off LinkedIn because I actually want their email. I want their email and possibly other details, because that way I can start a different relationship with them. Now, that's a high touch kind of way to do it, but, I've got a program that's requires a bit of investment. So it's really important for me very quickly to actually have a conversation with somebody to understand where they're at, what they want, and whether I'm a great fit for them or not. And if I'm not, I'm more than happy to say, look, I'm not sure you're ready, or so I want to be able to have a conversation. And you can't do that on LinkedIn, really.
No, certainly not as easily as you might like. There are some functions around messaging that allow you to set up a Zoom within LinkedIn, but I found that a bit glitchy, to be fair. And for my calls, I'd rather take them off LinkedIn and definitely do them on Zoom or Teams, because, we communicate differently. Thanks to COVID, we will now communicate in a completely different way. And I think it would be fair to say that LinkedIn changed a lot once COVID hit. And it became a lot more popular. People were on it. A lot more people joined. It was really the start of a huge expansion for LinkedIn. And since then, of course, it has, well, not since then, but just before that, it was purchased by Microsoft. And consequently, a lot of money is being poured into LinkedIn. And now we just have this huge number of new features that are just deluging us just about daily, and it's very hard to keep up with. But the problem that I'm finding, Jackie, is that that's not really a great deal of use to new users of LinkedIn, to people who just venture onto LinkedIn for the first time, or have really only just put up a placeholder profile, as a lot of your clients and mine have often done, because they don't see necessarily the opportunities. They don't understand that how you can leverage the power of LinkedIn to achieve their professional goals. So if somebody comes to you, say somebody who is a fledgling author, and they've got a book in mind, and they're coming to you as the book advisor to join your coaching program, tell me whereabouts then what do you suggest for as regards LinkedIn that they should do? Because I'm really interested to hear whether the people who contact you, which are often C-suite people, business owners, people that are intelligent, articulate, and know their top of their game, whether or not they can see or already see the possibilities of LinkedIn before they come in contact with you.
Okay, so that's a really simple question to answer, and I'm smiling. So I would say probably 90% of the people that end up working with me have no idea about LinkedIn. Some of them don't even have a LinkedIn profile. And I would say that, LinkedIn is my target audience, and then for a lot of my clients, it's their target audience, but it's not everybody's target audience. So where you're looking for business to business, C-suite, top level managers across, whatever industry or function, LinkedIn's great, but it's not for everybody, depending on what the topic is and who your audience is. But if you're in that marketplace, LinkedIn is terrific. So most of my clients would come to me and might have a very standard profile. Some don't even have a photograph. Certainly many don't have that background image. And most of them might have populated the About section with a copy and paste from their CV. And so after we've worked out the book strategy and what they're going to write about, the next thing I get people to do is start working on their LinkedIn. And that's quite early on actually in their book process, because I want to get them comfortable with LinkedIn as a platform. And I want to start them off slowly and getting confidence about posting and understanding how it works. And, you've got to be pretty brave to start commenting on people's posts you've never met, or I'm used to it, but I totally understand that if you've never done this sort of thing before, you don't have a great deal of confidence about what to do and if you're doing it the right way. So I take my clients kind of in baby steps through that process. And I had one client who had never engaged LinkedIn, and I had to look at all the drafts of all her posts for about a month. And now she's all over LinkedIn. She's getting speaking gigs. She writes articles. She's just become a LinkedIn queen, So so it is a complicated platform to learn. So I take them through that slowly, and I say to most people, you'll be surprised how much you get sucked into it, and it becomes an issue of not spending too much time on it rather than thinking it's a pain in the neck to go into. So, and I have that problem too.
Yeah, well, as you imagine, I do too. In actual fact, I wake up and look at LinkedIn, and I look at LinkedIn all throughout the day, and then just before I go to bed at night, as you can imagine, because there's always something to see, something new to learn, and somebody new to interact with. To me, as I said earlier on, one of the most important things is those relationships and those collaborations that emerge as a result of being on LinkedIn. Now, you were recently appointed to the Forbes Business Council, and I would just like to ask you a bit about that, because that's not something that I know a great deal about. Forbes is a fabulous name. Everybody knows it. It's right up there with Harvard Business Review. So tell us just a bit about how you got involved with that.
Yeah, look, I've been, my business is Understanding Business, so I get all the business magazines and stuff like that. And I subscribed to Forbes, and I kept on seeing these things posts by Forbes Business Council members. So, you have to apply, you have to have a certain, credentials, to be accepted. You do have to pay. But they don't just accept everybody. You need to be regarded as a thought leader in your area. And of course, if you don't have anything in the public domain, like a book, or you haven't written articles on LinkedIn or other platforms, very difficult for anybody to make an assessment about whether you're kind of you are a leader in your area. So that's kind of how that happened. And I've now had a couple of articles published on Forbes and the online magazine. And again, that was part of I'm running an international business. It's virtual from Sydney, but it's always been international, and I've got a virtual team. So and LinkedIn is a really dynamic place, and the Forbes thing fits in with that really well. And of course, there's a lot of Forbes Business Council members on LinkedIn, so it's a network within that network.
Yes, and that is the thing about LinkedIn, is that everybody is connected to everybody within some degree of separation. There's absolutely no question about that. All right, so I want to just put you on the spot here before we start to take questions in a minute. I want to put you on the spot and ask you, what is one thing about LinkedIn that you're not really terribly fussed about, that you wish there might be a solution to? What is it that irritates you about LinkedIn?
Okay.
Oh, no, here you go.
I've got something.
All right.
Got it. From what I understand, LinkedIn doesn't like you putting links to things outside LinkedIn in your posts.
True. Yes.
And I see lots of people doing it, and we've talked about this, and it's my understanding, I could be wrong, that the reason they don't like it obviously is because it leads people off the LinkedIn platform, and they want to keep people on the platform. So you and I understand, and we know what to do for the workaround for that, which to me just seems stupid. Because you do it, but that really irritates me.
And not only do they penalise posts that have links to external sites, they penalise links to other LinkedIn posts or sites or pages. It's sort of a blanket thing. Now, they say that they don't, but the result is if you're posting something and you put a link in, fewer people will see it. Now, the workaround that Jacquie's talking about is one that we've used for a long time, and that is to put the link in the comments below. Now, unfortunately, in a comment thread, your particular comment might disappear down the bottom. So I've got a workaround for that too. And that is to put a pin emoji right at the very beginning of your comment. Now, that may not always make sure that it stays at the top, but what it does do is it stands out in the comment thread so people will be able to see it. And if you mention the link in your post and then put the pin beside it, then people know what to look for. It's really very simple when you think about it, and a nice visual thing to be doing as well. All right, we're going to ask some questions, Jacquie's going to answer some questions, more questions in just a minute from people who are on the live today. But first of all, Jacquie, I want just to put up on the screen a link to your LinkedIn profile so that people who are not already connected to you or following you can make sure that they connect to you, send you a personalized invite, and also so that you can then follow up with them, because I see that these kind of events are also a networking opportunity. So we'll just pop that link up somewhere along the line in just a moment. And also I'd like you just to mention to us what it is that you can do to help people like me who have a book in them that they want to get published. How do you help, and what's the first step for that?
Oh, thank you for that great segue. One comment though, Lynnaire, if someone's going to send me a personalised message and they're not used to doing that, how would you say they do that? What would you suggest that they write?
Well, I would suggest that what they do is that they look at your profile. That what they do is that they make sure that there is something in common that acts as a hook. So what that might be is you and I are both gardening fans. I don't know if that's on your profile, it's certainly on mine. And so if I was, as a gardener, went to your profile and saw that you said that you liked gardening, then that's what I would say in my message. It would be, Jacquie, I see we've got lots of connections in common, and we are both gardening fans. We live in different countries and different climates, but I'm sure that we find there are some similar problems. I would start a conversation on the back of something that you have in common with the person. Now, you can't always do that because their profile might not have anything that you can use as a hook, but often it does, and that's what you should always look for. And because that gives you then a good focus for wanting to look at their profile. I always think it's a really important thing to do to look first so that you know a bit about the person, what it is that they are doing. So you could ask a question about their work, for example, even as, how did you get into what you do? People can ask, I'm interested in learning more about your services. I'm interested in connecting so that I see more of your posts and your content here on LinkedIn. There are a load of ways that you can do that, but treat it as if you were meeting somebody at a networking event that you don't know and that you know nothing about. So what is it that you would then go up to them and say? You wouldn't just go up and say, hello, my name's Lynnaire, would you like to buy my book? What you would do is you go up to them and say, hi, I'm Lynnaire. It's really nice to see you here today. What kind of line of work are you in? What is it that you do? And you would start a conversation, and that's what you're aiming to do here on LinkedIn. I thought I was the one asking the question.
I'm not sorry. It did just occur to me. So yeah. Anyway, so what do I do? Oh, yeah, going off on a tangent. So yeah, someone's thinking about writing a book or even has published a book and are a bit stuck about how to market it. So what I do is on a one-to-one basis, coach people through the process of how to take their idea and create a really clear structure or content outline for their book, keeping front of mind who their target audience is. Because a very common mistake a lot of people make is that, I want to write a book and I've got all this knowledge and I'm going to share it with the world. and not for 1 minute think about who their audience is and what their main issues are. So a lot of books tend to be just a brain dump without any consideration for what are the key challenges of their audience. You cannot share everything you know. So you have to have a framework to work out what it is you're going to put in your book and what it is you're going to leave out. So I kind of do that thinking process first. So when people come to me and go, oh, I want to write a book, I say, great, don't start writing yet. You know, is this great urge to just start writing, wrong way to go about it. And typically you'll find people who do that get stuck and don't complete, or they write something and they go, oh, I don't know if this is any good. So it's about the thinking and strategy work first, then you get to the writing. And if you think that's the hard bit, the next bit that comes up is even more challenging, which is how are you going to market your book? Where are you going to market it? What's your strategy and plan for that? What are your goals and what are your outcomes that you want? And you kind of have to do that thinking work way up front as well. And again, a lot of people just bowl straight in and don't do any of that really super critical thinking and strategy and planning work because it's going to take time and money. So you really need to be doing that thinking work first before you start writing.
To me, you're preaching to the converted because having been on your book advisor coaching course, I know that you're exactly right. And I made a lot of those mistakes when I did my book. And I found that you were hugely helpful in guiding me in the right direction and overcoming the issues that I face, because it is a marathon, a bit like LinkedIn. Writing a book is a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's not something that you can do really very, very quickly. You have to spend some time on it and you have to work through the process. And having someone, I can tell you from personal experience, having someone who's there alongside you, who you can ask questions of and who chivies you along and make sure that you don't give up is really, really super important. Now, the links for connecting with Jaqui and for her strategy session, because you offer a free strategy session, those links are in the comments in the stream. So Jaqui, tell us about your strategy meeting, your strategy consultation. Session. What do you call it?
Yeah.
Session.
Yes.
Thank you.
Strategy session. So again, it's really around a conversation around understanding, the person who's thinking about doing a book. You know, what's their purpose and what's their motivation, and what are they trying to achieve with their book? Because a whole bunch of decisions will flow from that. And from who the target audience, what they're going to put in the book, what they're not, how they're going to use the book, are they going to use it in their business or not? So pretty much all the decisions that are made along the way of the book process are informed by what's the purpose, what's the goal, what are you trying to achieve, and what's your time frame and budget do you have in mind? Because then if I know that, can help then come back to somebody even in that 45 minutes saying, okay, well, if this is where you're, and even just getting some responses to those questions, because a lot of people haven't thought about their book like that, and they go away, oh, of course, that's really logical. Oh, I hadn't thought about that. Oh, well, if that, then we have that kind of conversation. So they actually, in a way, are way more informed about what their book can be or could be and what's driving them to do it. And if it has a business development purpose, or people might want to become a speaker. So getting clear around the purpose and the goals and the target audience, we can cover that in 45 minutes, and it gives people a way better platform to even start thinking about their book.
All right. So if you're thinking about starting a book, if you're looking at this, watching this and starting to think about writing a book, then what you need to do is to go to Jaqqui's profile or the link that we've got in the comments and get in touch with her, because she's a really, really, really nice person. So we're going to start with some questions, Jaqui. Now, Diana's asked if you can tell us a bit about how you mentioned right at the beginning about being a Luddite Lane. Now, yes. I understand what you mean by that. It's a bit difficult. You and I are of a generation where things have changed tremendously in our lifetimes, and so it's interesting to hear how you became skilled online and how long it took. What was your journey question you like? Well, I know the answer to that one step forward and two back if you're anything like me. Diana, great question. Jackie, let's hear what you have in answer to this.
Yeah, look, how long did it take? Look, I think in a way I'm still learning. But going back to when I still use my phone as a phone, so I am, less Luddite now, but I'm not a natural techie person. And so when I was looking at building the book advisor, I knew I had to go and get educated. So I looked for some courses and some programs, and I took myself and I got educated. And in fact, that's where Lynnaire and I first met, was at a LinkedIn course, which was in person and virtual way before COVID. So I recognised that I didn't have certain skill sets, and that whatever I did, but particularly because I had this wacky idea of building a virtual online business, that I had to get myself an education. I would say it really took me a couple of years to become confident enough to not worry about it too much. And then it took me probably another 3 or 4 years of experimenting with different things. So I've done Facebook ads, I've done funnel things on Facebook, I've spent gajillions on different CRMs, anything from Infusionsoft now to Engage Bay. I just bit the bullet and decided that I needed to educate myself and get stuck into it and just do it. And ditto with LinkedIn. When I first started, I think I had 500 connections. I think I've got over 12,000 now. Wow. And when I first started, I was very hesitant to comment on people's posts, and I wasn't very confident about posting or articles. And then I just thought, oh no, I've just got to bite the bullet and do this. But like videos, oh my God, my first videos were terrible. But then someone said to me, no one's really looking at you, just keep doing them.
I guess what you mean. So look, there's a question about videos, and this is from a young lady who I only met last week, who I think is known to you, Nashika. So she wants to know, because you have mentioned videos, whether you need to have a script before you record, or do you just talk?
Interesting question, Yashika. I've done both. When I first started, I had like 2 professional video people, and I'd written the script out and I practiced it, and cost me hundreds of dollars to do these videos. and now literally I was in the back garden yesterday afternoon holding my phone up, ripping off like 8 1-minute videos. I worked out my topic, and then just talked to camera. So I think depending on what the purpose of the video is, you may choose to write a script, but I certainly wouldn't read it. And then when you get more confident in front of video, you can just go. And depending again on the purpose, most of my videos are not longer than 1:15 or 1:30. You can't say much in 1:30. So if you're doing a longer video, I do bullet points. It's a bit like public speaking. I don't write full-on speeches. I write dot points, and then I talk to the dot points.
Well, that makes a lot of sense to me too, and I agree. I think it's really if you want to be authentic, just standing there talking like you and I were talking makes a big difference. It comes across in a much more friendly, personable way on LinkedIn. Your point about the time is also relevant, and videos that are between 30 seconds and a minute do best on LinkedIn. For you and I, we are talkers really, so it's hard to keep us to a minute. But I find that if I can talk coherently and without mistakes for a minute, after that I start to ramble, I start to make mistakes, and it all falls apart really quickly. So that's a really good guide for me to shut up and finish the video and just to move on. So thanks very much for that question. Now let's move to who have we got here? Gavin. Infusionsoft. So do you still use this, or have you moved on from it? From what you said, Jackie, it sounded like you've already moved on from this.
Initially we used Infusionsoft for a couple of years, commonly known as Confusionsoft. And it's a big grunty system and totally overpowered for what we needed. So I probably should never have gone and got into it. It's a great program, but I'm not running a 1,000-person business that's turning over $10 or $20 million. So and another thing, I guess, also about the whole online space, you can spend a lot of money on these subscription services, and it starts adding up. Infusionsoft is not cheap. Salesforce is not cheap, and you've got you've got to have Stripe and all these things to run your online business, and you look at your subscriptions every year. So we moved from Infusionsoft to something else I can't even remember. We then went to MailerLite, and now we've found EngageBay. And I say we because I don't do any of that. I have somebody who does it because I cannot. I am not that person. I'd like to understand what the back end is doing, but I don't want to. I can't touch it. I'd blow the thing up. We've moved to EngageBay, but again, that's that trial and error thing. But I can't express enough that there are a lot of options out there. Don't overpay for things you are never going to use.
Oh yes, and that is something I think that we all do. I just wanted to make a point about you not using the software yourself. You and I are both clever people because we have cleverer people doing all the hard work for us in that kind of an area. All right, so Diane has another question about LinkedIn discouraging connecting with people that you don't know. Well, from where I stand, that is an out of date concept. That LinkedIn may still be looking like that's the case, but you don't get a billion members, do you, Jackie, without people connecting with people that they don't know? It doesn't make sense, does it?
No, and I think maybe the back sort of the underlying thing around that question is that if you are sending out connection requests, that you should not just send out blanket ones that look like spam, and that if you are doing that as a part of a mainstream program, which I do through Sales Navigator, you need to manage that really well, because if you have too many connection requests that haven't been accepted, they don't like that, and so you really need to be connecting with people for a genuine reason. So I get connection requests that go, "Hello, Jackie, I've got some sales things that I'd like to talk to you about," and I just immediately ignore them. I do not want to be sold to on LinkedIn. And if somebody sends me something like that, I think, you don't know what this platform's about. I'm not interested. So I think LinkedIn likes you to connect, but it needs to be for a solid reason. And yes, I'm doing mine for business development, but it's not, "Hi, Lynnaire, I've got a business book coaching program. It's an 8-step, blah, 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 blah. I look forward to talking with you." I never send a connection.
Eyes glaze over.
Yeah.
Eyes glaze over. You're absolutely right, and I think it's really important that people understand what LinkedIn is all about and what it is for. And I hope that yours and my discussion today have been able to help people to do that. So once again, if you aren't yet connected to Jackie or are not following her, shame on you. You need to be doing that, and the link is in the comments, and also Jackie's website link is in the comments too. If you have a business book that you need to get out there in the public, Jackie is the absolute best person to help you with that. And I know from experience, and you can see that Yashika believes it as well. She just wrote a lovely little comment that we have just put there on the screen. All right, Jackie, any final thoughts that you might like to add for anybody who is considering working on LinkedIn in their business? What final message would you like to leave people with today?
I think that it's a very powerful platform, that if you're not engaged with it, you probably need to be. It has helped me grow my business, and it can help grow yours if you're in that B2B consulting space. That if you don't know what to do, go find out. And Lynnaire is one of the best people to go find out from. And she's published a book about it.
So I have. Oh, yes, so I have.
And it's available for purchase on Lynnaire's site. Seriously, LinkedIn is extraordinarily powerful, and I'm really quite surprised that more people at a B2B level are not aware of it, and particularly the Sales Navigator and back-end database of LinkedIn, which is extraordinarily powerful if you know how to use it properly.
And there again, it's learning, isn't it, about how to make things work. So Jackie talks a lot on LinkedIn about how to write books. I talk a lot about LinkedIn on LinkedIn, no surprise there. So please do click that bell under the banners on our profiles so that you get notified of our posts. And in Jackie's case, lots of her articles. She writes great articles that are really, really interesting. And are not just about books, they're often about world affairs too. So do make sure that you connect to us, that you follow us, and that you keep in touch with us and let us know how you're going on your book journey with Jackie, on your LinkedIn journey with me. Now, thank you, Jackie, for joining us today. We've had a fantastic conversation, and I know that we could keep going all afternoon. We have had some very long conversations in the past. So I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to be with us here today. Thank you.
Absolute pleasure, Lynnaire, and thanks so much for all your advice over the years on LinkedIn and continuing so. It's an avalanche, so I really appreciate your sensible advice about what to do.
Well, thank you for that, and your sensible advice about how to write my book was very helpful as well. So thanks again. Next week, this time, we'll be talking more about LinkedIn on my LinkedIn audio event. If you've not seen or been on an audio event before, please do join us next week. I'm really enjoying these. It's like having my own little radio station, and I do them on a Thursday afternoon, each alternate Thursday. And if you stick around for just a moment, you'll see the links and what we've got coming up in our next events in May. My thanks again to today's guest, Jaqui Lane, and thank you for joining us. Those of you who joined us live, my really sincere thanks for making the time to do that. And we will see you again on the next one. Thanks and bye for now.